Sound means you're back on the air with the Restaurant Brokers, and it's time for Restaurant Reality. That's when we give you the full and unbridled truth about buying a restaurant. We have been talking about food trucks today, and Eric, sometimes people listening may think that the food truck business is the quick and easy way to get into the restaurant industry. Is that the case?
Robin, the reality of the food truck industry is that there's a lot of rules. While your business may be mobile, you may have to have a fixed location. For example, in Atlanta, most food truck in Atlanta at what they call a rally locations because they can't just park your truck anywhere and get started in the business.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. And on top of that, you need all kinds of permissions no matter where you are. For example, if you're going to park your food truck at a shopping center, you have to get permission from a private property owner. You are required to get your mobile restaurant permitted with the local health authority. And then guess what? You know what? You even have to register your route with the health department. It's not like you can just drive here, there, and everywhere. They want to be able to find you so they can do a random inspection. So you have to say, I will be here in this particular locked location. So it's not quite as fluid as you might think.
Yeah, 'cause some of our guests today talk about California food trucks or quote unquote the Wild West. But I believe since now this thing has evolved into a much more regulated, and at the end of the day, the government's trying to protect the public from food handling and food safety, that nobody gets sick. So you can't just get in your truck in the morning, drive around town, and see a crowd and park in the middle of it and start serving food. That's not going to be allowed by most municipalities across the country, right?
Yeah, and depending on what you're serving, too, you may come under a little bit more scrutiny. So you have to think about what your concept is to know whether or not it's going to be easily approved. Certain types of cuisine are more difficult to permit than others. For example, do you know that there are only 2 sushi trucks permitted in the entire city of Atlanta, Eric?
I did not know that, Robin. That's very interesting.
And besides that, you have to deal with the city. Sometimes you have to deal with the county, and they have the right to enforce the code as they see fit. So sometimes the more rural counties are less accepting than the more populated counties, like the city of Atlanta, where they have lots and lots of experience. So I guess that the rules are that there are a lot of rules. That's the rule of the day when thinking about food trucks.
Yeah, and also it's very surprising. We talked to some of our experts today about cost, Robin. I mean, I know people think, I can just buy a truck and for a fraction of the cost of a restaurant, not having a kitchen, not having a staff, not having everything. But the experts, they told us that you're talking probably from on the low end to buy a truck, $75,000, and a total investment for people that want to be very serious about it in excess of $300,000 with a staff of 12 to 15 people. Well, if you listen to that carefully, that sounds almost like a brick and mortar. So it's more of a choice of a lifestyle versus a financial decision, Robin. Would you agree?
Yes, and think about this, too. The reality of the food truck business is that you only have a limited number of hours that you operate. So if you do have that brick and mortar store, yes, you have a greater fixed cost because you have the rent in place, but you do not have just that 11 to 1 p.m. window or that 5 to 9 p.m. window. You're able to serve food many more hours of the day, which gives you the capacity for many more sales, which will cover your fixed cost in terms of rent.
Yeah, and one of our guests today, Greg, mentioned that because of the size of a food truck, you have to prepare before you go. So even if you are 11 to 1, you're probably prepping the day before or the morning of, and you have to have more people. So there's a lot of work involved. It is like a full restaurant on wheels. David said that today, right?
He did. And some of the other rules you need to be aware of, for example, is you have to figure out a way to have a restroom within 150 feet of your truck, for example, in the most places in Georgia. So while you may, you're going to have to work with and cooperate with a local merchant to make that happen, and you're going to have to provide that letter of permission to even get permitted. Some of the counties are taking very long times. In Fulton County, it's taken about 10 weeks to get permitted right now, while some other counties are dealing with it much quicker. DeKalb County can get your temporary permit in a couple of weeks.
And also, if you think, hey, there's a great Mexican restaurant down the street, and I sell tacos on my truck, and I'll just park myself a few hundred yards from them and try to convince consumers to come over. Well, newsflash, most municipalities are saying that you can't be vending within 250 feet of a restaurant selling similar goods. So you will not be able to do that. So that's also to make sure that the market is fair and you don't give a disadvantage. And also, if you think about if you're operating in 2 or 3 different counties, or your routes are in separate counties, you're going to have to pay sales tax and also account for all your earnings in different counties and report that separately, which increase your cost of reporting. And one thing that most restaurateurs are not that great at, because Robin and I know that every day, is financial reporting, right?
I would say, and here's the thing, a food truck, the bottom line is you're not going to escape the regulation. It's not an instant path to success, and it may cost you just as much as a traditional restaurant. So that may be kind of the con. The pro side is, oh my gosh, food trucks are so fun, and you can park yourself at festivals and events and, do it as a part-time job rather than having that really full-time commitment. So it becomes a lifestyle choice.
Yes. Earlier this year, we have spoken with some folks at Technomic, which is a consulting and research firm that does a lot of survey about different things in the food service industry. And one of the things that came to them in part of their research and survey was that most consumers will stop at a food truck if it's in their way, but they're not seeking out food truck like they would do for a brick-and-mortar restaurant. So the consumer behavior is very different also for the food truck consumers than it is for a brick-and-mortar. That also should drive your decision. What do you want to do? Because they will not drive 5 or 6 or 10 miles to come to your food trucks. They will for your brick and mortar.
So I guess it comes down to keep your passion for the industry, figure out which lifestyle is better for you, and compare. Do you want to go out and get that mobile truck and go in business that way? Or do you want to invest in a business that may be very comparable in terms of pricing that's ready to go? Here's an example. Do you know, Eric, this week I listed an office building cafe in Buckhead. It's in a high-rise building. The rent is $850 a month, so we're talking very low fixed costs, and that business is on the market for $69,995. So ready book of business, very inexpensive rent, very concise hours, 7 to 4 Monday through Friday. That may actually be a better choice than going out and facing all the issues associated with a food truck.
Yeah, and his office building, Robin, they have a built-in audience, so they also have a certain amount of customers in the building that you can also reach out to the first day you're in business, right?
Right. So if you go to our website, which is WeSellRestaurants.com, you'll see that we have fully equipped Atlanta in-town location for $39,995. We have a wing store in the outer perimeter, outside the perimeter, that's on the market for under $50,000. So lots and lots of listings out there can be acquired at very, very low cost, already have an existing book of business, don't require that you go through all these hoops, and you can be in business tomorrow and turn the key. And that's the benefit of buying an existing restaurant over those startup ventures where it really is a gamble for getting into the restaurant business.
Well, just like Thomas on our show today, if you have the American dream of quitting your job and be your own boss, you can buy something already existing, which is either a brick and mortar existing or a food truck existing, and the restaurant brokers can help you with either one of them. So reach out to us so we can help you reaching your future goals.
This is Eric and Robin Gagnon. You've been listening to We Sell Restaurants and the Restaurant Brokers. Our topic today was food trucks. Join us each week on Talk 920 as we take on the topics trending in the restaurant business, or join us online at WeSellRestaurants.com.